Webster Tarpley has a doctorate of history and economics. He's a best-selling author. We sell all 4 of his books at Infowars.com. We have a new film out, by the way, made by William Lewis, which is Don't Tread on Me, now available at Infowars.com, about states' rights, 10th Amendment. We need to be part of a tribal gang mentality, but not on race. Bill of Rights, Constitution. Tarpley will be on with us during the weekday show for a full hour this week. I'm going to do this full segment with him, part of the next, and I'm going to jam in David, George, Joe, Ralph, and a few others commenting about how the media, Hollywood, is trying to create racial division between Hispanics, whites, and others of the great game of division. But Robert Rodriguez, the accomplished director, is here in Austin, Texas, and he has made a new film called Machete that basically invokes race war from the trailer, and I've talked to people on his staff about it. I'm going to reach out to him this week. I don't want you to be hateful, but especially Hispanics that want to let him know what they think about what he's doing and how this may cause a backlash against Hispanics. The number is 512. It's good to call them today and tomorrow when they're there. 512-334-7777. That's 512-334-7777. Or fax 512-391-1529. Again, that's fax 512-391-1529. Or if you want to write them a letter, it's 4900 Old Manor Road, Austin, Texas, 78723. Because I don't think he's a bad guy. I talked to a few film directors I know that know him. I talked to a Hispanic film producer that I'm good friends with, and he said, look, Rodriguez, just thinks this is a fun exploitation film. But he's being played here. 4900 Old Manor Road, Austin, Texas, 78723. But to also call him tomorrow and just explain to him what's going on here. That's very, very important to do. Let's go to Webster Griffin Tarpley, because White House doesn't rule out sabotage in Thursday's wild Wall Street plunge. Tarpley, 2 years ago, during the last plunge, predicted that by 2010, we would see the stimulus money run out. He's on record. He's in Obama Deception and Fall of the Republic. One film made over a year ago, one 6 months ago, saying everything that's now happened. And so he's here to break down what he thinks happened in the market Thursday with a 1,000-point drop, and what's happening with Greece, what the IMF and World Bank are doing. Goldman Sachs now in the emails, premeditatedly doing this as a financial bomb. They want to wreck. It's the false banker economy against the real economy of Main Street. That's the real enemy, and that's why they want us racially divided, fighting with each other. Webster, good to have you here with us.
Thank you, Alex. How are you?
Good. You've got the floor. Break down your intel on the 1,000-point plunge and what's happening right now globally.
First of all, on the 1,000 points in 10 minutes on Thursday afternoon, you got to realize that a panic was already there. You had a pre-existing panic, meaning that you had a lot of people dumping assets. And in particular, it's likely that some of the hedge funds, some of the hyenas in this hedge fund wolf pack that attacks Greece and others, there are some hedge funds who bet wrong, and they were very likely dumping assets, panic, distressed sales of assets into an already panicked market. Now, it's made worse by the fact that you've got these new things, at least relatively new. Program trading has been around for 10 or 20 years, but now you've got high-frequency trading and flash trading, and these are computer trading programs that go thousands of times a second, even more than that. So you've got somebody dumping assets, and then as this panic is building, you're getting what you already had in 1929. This part is not new. You've got a lot of people who have put in stop-loss orders, and the stop-loss orders say, if the stock goes to X, then sell my shares at X. So as you start going through those stop-loss orders, you get a cascading, snowballing effect as it goes down. So you go down to 10,000, to 9,900, to 9,800, and wherever it ended up. Then, of course, the plunge protection team comes in. This is the most obvious thing in the world. The PPT, the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, and the way they do it usually is through futures in Chicago, where they buy the futures to updraft the market, right? They keep the price of the future in Chicago above the price of the stock in New York so that the program traders will then sell the future, buy the stock, and then with a couple of $100 million in Chicago, you can generate billions and billions of buying in New York. So that's what brought it back, if you will. The artificial part of this is the recovery. And I'm quite sure that within a week or two, we will get down to the same level that we just saw, because that's what you see when you've got a panicked market, right? It may go down to a certain level, then bounce up halfway, but then it'll be down there again quite soon. So that's a world panic, and I think that's what people should see. This is the second wave of the world economic depression. This is not a business cycle. This is not a recession. This is a breakdown crisis.
By the way, I mean, you've written a book on this many years ago. Over 2 years ago, you predicted that it would start in Greece, go to Portugal, Spain. You're not here whistling Dixie. I mean, I want to just point out Webster Tarpley is one of our chief economic advisors. You know exactly what you're talking about with the bona fides. What you've said has come true because you understand the technical facts at a deep level.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a world economic depression and a disintegration. The disintegration is this. We already had the disintegration of some banks, but now you're going to get the disintegration of the euro, a chaotic collapse, something that nobody should want. The chaotic collapse of the European Central Bank.
And by the way, this is now mainstream news. You were saying this 2 years ago. They laugh. Now they're saying in the New York Times the euro may disintegrate tomorrow.
Sure, the euro could be a matter of just weeks or months. I would also point that the British pound, because of the position of the British pound...
They're saying Britain's next to fall, yeah.
That they will be sucked into this maelstrom, this whirlpool of bankruptcy and hedge fund speculation. The other thing, though, is once you get the British pound going down and the British banks, that also brings down the euro-dollar market. There's a huge mass of trillions of U.S. dollars that have been sitting in London.
Yeah, the carry trade. And London is now bigger than New York financially.
Right, so the euro-dollar market, and of course the euro-dollar is just the same as any other dollar when it comes to a market. So you've got this problem of a whole bunch of dollars that are beyond the reach of the U.S. government, and the British regulatory regime is worth nothing. The other thing is interbank lending in Europe has now frozen. It has seized up. In other words, when you get a systemic crisis, banks will not lend to each other, and it doesn't just mean Banco Santander or Banco de Bilbao of Spain or the various Italian banks. Unicredito is one of the biggest banks in the world, and it's probably reaching up to Deutsche Bank in Germany and Barclays Bank in Britain. Societe Generale, certainly in big trouble. BNP Paribas. These are all bank stocks that have lost 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% in the past week. But if they're seizing up, that means Wall Street is seizing up too. And we have this emergency conference. You can see how scared the European leaders are. The European finance ministers are meeting in Brussels right now, and they're coming up with what they call the defense fund against the wolf pack. The wolf pack would be the hedge funds.
But the wolf pack is them. They're all chief members or former heads of the wolf pack.
More or less. But here's the idea. If you wanted to stop this, there are some things you can do. If you're under attack by hedge funds, you ban hedge funds. If the hedge funds are using credit default swaps, you ban those.
Okay, we know what they should do, but what are they saying they're going to do?
Well, they're going to come up. They came up with $150 billion for Greece, and that's now going through. And now they're going to have $645 billion. It's 500 billion euros, basically. So 650 billion U.S. dollars to defend the euro against these hedge funds, hedge fund hyenas and zombie
And this
banks.
is overnight. I mean, as soon as Greece got the 164 billion or whatever, you say 150, now they need 600 billion. And, of course, I've been reading that more than half this money's coming from the American taxpayer.
Well, you can figure that whenever the IMF gets into the act, the IMF board just approved 40 billion U.S. dollars for Greece. So the U.S. taxpayer is on the hook for at least 1/5 of that. So call it 8 or 9 billion, a little bit less than 1/5. The other thing is, of course, the U.S. has a $100 billion line of credit to the IMF, so they could start drawing that down.
All right, stay there, Webster.
The
Webster, I'm going to set you up for a full hour this week if you can do it, so we can really give you a lot of time to go over this because you're one of our leading experts. But in the few minutes we've got left on the other side, versus what you think they should do, the sanity, what they're going to do, and what you're predicting is going to happen on the other side of this quick break. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com.